What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the Somebody Like You podcast, where today we are talking about unlocking personal growth, the path to self mastery. And as we get started, what I like to do is always have a word from our sponsor, which is Somebody Like You, mental health and emotional wellness coaching. And here's our word from our sponsor. Are you ready to unlock your true potential and embark on a journey of self love discovery? Discover the transformative power of Somebody Like You mental health coaching. Picture this, right? You just had your first session with somebody like you. That's me. And already you're expecting a positive shift in your mental health. The clouds of uncertainty and self doubt are clearing, making way for a brighter, more empowered version of you. That's the magic of mental health coaching. Because in today's fast paced world, we're all facing challenges that can impact our well being. Stress, anxiety, and self limiting beliefs can hold us back from reaching our full potential. But with somebody like you, mental health coaching, you have a compassionate and experienced guide by your side, dedicated to helping you navigate these obstacles. At somebody like you, there's a team of dedicated coaches, me, believed to that believe that everyone deserves to live a life filled with purpose, joy, and self-acceptance. They provide a safe space for you to explore your thoughts, your emotions, and your aspirations. With their guide, you'll discover the strength within you to overcome obstacles and create a life that aligns with your values and aspirations. So why wait? Take the first step towards a happier, healthier you. Visit Somebody Like You's website at www.somebodylikeyou.org and schedule your first session today. Experience the positive impact of mental health coaching and unlock your true potential. Let's go. I always love reading that self-written ad. But as I said, we're jumping in. We're talking about unlocking personal growth and the path to self mastery. Um, the first step we're going to talk about is understanding what self help is. Because a lot of us read self help books. A lot of us listen to Gary Vee. We listen to Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, all of these things, right? And they're all wonderful resources. But I think Tony Robbins has a documentary out that I'm not your guru, right? You can't follow these people blind like a blind cult because I'm going to get the secret out of the way in the beginning of this podcast. The secret to self help is the commitment to yourself through the good days and the bad days. That is the secret. It's the commitment to yourself and the actions you take. Um, because you could listen to me until you're blue in the face or till I'm blue in the face. But if you never do anything and then blame the person you listen to as if their advice doesn't work, that's just lack of accountability. And if on the self help journey you don't have accountability, then what do you have? It's always somebody else's problem. It's always somebody else's reason. So self help is the commitment to yourself. And most importantly, it's the accountability you take for yourself along this journey. So understanding self help is the accountability you take, the commitment you make, and every breath you take. I couldn't get that police song out of my head. For some of the younger generation, that might be a Puff Daddy song or a P. Diddy song. Um, for the even younger generation, they might not know what that even is. So, some misconceptions around self help. It's not a one size fits all thing, right? We're taught that if you adapt this mindset, you're going to get better in 7 days. You're going to attract more women or more men or a better partner. You're going to get a better job. Yeah, in 7 days, your circumstances might change. But if after those 7 days you think everything's just going to change because you said these four affirmations and did one thing, that's not how that works. Self help isn't a one size fits all solution. It's also not a replacement for professional help like therapy, mental health coaching, counseling. Self help is great. And I think that's the dedication to yourself you absolutely need. But if you don't seek professional help and all you're really doing is reading these books and not really acclimating or practicing the things that are in those books or on these podcasts or in therapy, even if you're in therapy or you're in coaching or counseling and you're not doing the things that they talk about, this self help journey, this personal growth journey is going to be torture. because all you're really doing is listening. And when we first start, that's a great place to do is you have to surround yourself with content, with a supportive group, with people that make you feel better, do better, see better, think better. But there comes a point in this self-help journey, this personal growth, self-help, where action has to be taken place, where you have to understand that what works for me, what works for Gary Vee, Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, whoever it might be, a portion of that might work best for you. Their entire plan might not. So you have to go into the self-help journey, this personal development journey with a sense of wonder and be willing to learn, be willing to try things, be willing to understand things that do work for you. But most importantly, being okay when you find the things that don't work for you, because the things that don't work for you, oh my gosh, my microphone from my other device was all the way on the other side of the room. And with the experienced podcast host I am, you think I would be able to keep going and just fix it. But I had to tell all my listeners who are not watching the live recording um, that that is what's happening. But if you're getting back on track here, if you're getting stuck on all the roadblocks or all the speed bumps along this way, along this journey, you're going to be stuck at those speed bumps. Those speed bumps are going to become road closures. Understand that the speed bumps are like detours taking you to things that do work better for you. That's a huge, to quote DJ Khaled, it's a major key to success. We the best, right? You have to understand that these speed bumps aren't roadblocks yet until you make them roadblocks. That's the accountability of this. So this one size fits all, even in my mental health coaching, I would love to make a free pamphlet and book and all of this stuff. Be like, hey, these are things you can do. Yeah, but understand this isn't gospel. This isn't like, hey, if you do this, you better expect these results. No, because what works for me and what my perspective is and what has worked for others may not all work for you. So you have to take the accountability here to be willing to try new things, seek professional help, and find, and this is a big one on the help part. If you find a therapist, a counselor, or a coach, and you're like, this just isn't it for me, that is beautiful. You know, it is beautiful that you were able to try something and be like, this isn't for me. It's just like the first person you date doesn't always become your husband, wife, or partner, right? You have to go through this. You have to, but as we dated, we learned new things about what we're looking for. But even more importantly, we learned more things about ourselves. So it's the same thing with therapy, coaching, and counseling. As you go through it, you're going to find out things about yourself and what you are looking for, what you're not looking for. And that's all a part of self help. The books you read are the things you're gonna be like, "Wow, I do identify with that. That does resonate with me." And that's beautiful because up until this point, maybe you didn't know. Maybe it's just like when you're dating somebody. I consider self-help and personal growth a lot like dating yourself. You have to find what you are looking for. You have to set boundaries with yourself. You have to communicate with yourself. So thinking that you're gonna date one person and it's gonna be everything that you want, some of us would say that's a little bullish, right? Some of us, yeah, we find the love of our lives when we're real young and we ride off into the sunset. That's one way to do it. But that you have to understand that's the first therapist, the first coach, the first content creator, the first counselor that you follow, talk with, speak with might not be it for you. Don't judge yourself and then condemn the rest of counseling, coaching, and therapy because one person didn't write for you. You have to vet these people. Self help is about protecting yourself, protecting your energy, protecting your journey while also shaping it creatively, having that space where you can open up and be vulnerable to somebody. You just can't be vulnerable to everybody. So if you have a session or two and it just doesn't feel right, it is okay. I encourage you, if you are a coaching client of mine and after a couple sessions, you sit there and be like, I'm just not feeling it anymore. I will thank you until the cows come home because that is such an important step on your self help and personal growth journey. realizing what is working for you and what is not. Because then you can go find somebody. You can go work with another person, take things that did work with one person, bring them to the next person and say, hey, these were things that were good in my previous relationship with my therapist, coach or counselor. But these are things that I kind of wish I had a little bit more of. Do you understand how this kind of sounds a lot like dating? It kind of sounds like dating yourself. We have Letsky that's commenting on the live podcast saying, going through all the mistakes I made in my relationship right now in my head, hoping to be better for the next man. I challenge that mindset in a good way. I'm so grateful that you shared that. To be better for you, right? Oftentimes we get caught in this mindset that we have to be better for other people. When we take the mindset of becoming better for ourselves, right? The self-help, right? How we talk and perceive ourselves. When you become the best or when you tap into that best version of you, you're going to attract things that are operating on that frequency. Look at it as like it's a radio station. I say this a lot on my podcast and in my videos. Think of things as a frequency. Everything is frequency, vibrations, energy, frequency, and vibrations. The wonderful Nikola Tesla. If you're looking at what you're trying to attract, you have to match that frequency because whether it's the law of attraction, it's matching frequencies, whatever it might be, whatever definition or terminology you like to use, that's up to you. It's for you to live interpret the words that come out of my mouth. You have to be those things to attract those things and for those things to last. Um, you ever notice when you're at a party and you're acting really fake at first because you want to fit in, and then people like you, and then all of a sudden it gets really tiring? That's kind of this process too. You don't want to fake it to yourself and then burn yourself out and be like, well, that didn't feel authentic at all. What we're looking to do is better ourselves and understand this is always a journey. We're not going to reach the final destination of like, hey, we're healed. Hey, we're completely grown. Our personal growth journey is done. Self help mastery is completed. Chalk it up. It's not how it works. And I think that's a really powerful mindset to understand is this is a forever thing. Think of it as like it's a video game and you're just always trying to level up and you keep collecting some really cool stuff along the way. And what we're doing is showing people our collections. But most importantly, we're showing ourselves the collection. So I think those are some keys to personal growth. That's something I feel like I could really talk about for a long time, but I want to stay kind of on track here. And I want to talk about like goal setting and vision because those are massive things to our self-help journey. Because if we're just blindly throwing things at a wall and hoping they stick, some things might stick, but we don't have any control over what that is. So sometimes we have things stick that aren't really the most important thing on our journey right now. So we have to have our meaningful goals, and we'll take our wonderful commenter Letsky talking about being better for the next person, right? Going through past relationships and identifying things that are going to help them become a better version of themselves moving forward. So using this example, it's one of those things. It's like we have to get specific. What are some things that I would like to be better with that I know I can be better with, but I'd like to see myself be better with? That could be better communication. That could be better boundary setting for you, for yourself and your partner. And then the coach in me wants to say, let's get specific. Let's take these things one at a time. How can we better communicate? Because remember, these goals and these visions have to be specific. The more specific we are with these things, the more growth we're going to see. So if you're professionally trying to grow and get a promotion, right? What specifically can you do to get that promotion? What specifically can you do? And that can be networking, that can be cultivating a better relationship with your superiors, with your coworkers, being a better leader. Um, Deadlines, you can be better with deadlines and holding people accountable, holding yourself accountable, right? These are all things that can apply into different stages of our lives: career, personal, romantic, all of these things. So the more specific you are, the more clear your vision is, right? There's an acronym. It's called SMART. It has to be your goals have to be specific, they have to be measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. We just talked about the more specific it is, the more chance you have for growth. Measurable. How do we measure our success throughout self help? How do we measure if we're growing? Because just we're going to say with the example from the comment, if our self help is reliant on other people's perception of us, that's not self help. I want to make sure Letsky knows I'm not picking on her. I'm just using the example. I'm using your comment and I'm adapting it to every other possible scenario, not just you specifically. I apologize if it feels like I'm like, you chose to comment one time and now I'm sitting here and I'm just gonna come down on you. I promise you it's not how that is. I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, this could be taken. She's like, why did I choose to tune into this podcast today? Um, because we think about how do we measure our success, right? If it's from other people, that isn't the self-help because a lot of times you could be doing all you can possibly do. But maybe it's just not in the cards for that promotion. Maybe it's just not lining up for that relationship. Maybe that person's timetable isn't in alignment with you. So maybe you can develop all of these skills and then you feel I've outgrown this and I'm ready for a new adventure. I'm ready for a new job, a new relationship, a new task on the self-help journey. So measurable is how are you going to gauge from day 1 to where you're looking to go? And that could be either keeping if you're this is not me. I'm not the person who's gonna keep, like, charts, but if you're a numbers person, how many things you get done on time, how many times you meditate during a week, how many times you positively or negatively talk to yourself. You can keep track of these things, but my big thing is be aware of them, be aware of the change. That's how I measure things. Um, I measure so I'll just give you a little insight into me. I my goals are 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, I want to exercise. But those days during the week don't have to be set. So I want to listen to my body. Well, those are measurable for me. If I get to 5 days, 30 minutes, 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, I achieve that. That's measurable. How many times I meditate on a day? I have on my phone meditation and exercise every morning, right? I want to meditate. And meditation isn't always sitting in the quiet room or whatever. It's that can be torture for some people. So finding a form of meditation that works for you. Measurable, achievable. You want to create goals that are achievable. You want to be able to get that check mark on your checklist, right? You don't want everything to feel like it's just constantly an uphill battle. So if you're able to start checking more things, you're going to build up momentum. And the more momentum you build up, the more things you're going to accomplish. And the more things you accomplish, the greater what's the word I'm looking for? The greater growth you're experiencing on your personal growth self-help journey. If you can hear the dog barking outside, I apologize. That's all I can concentrate on right now. But we're going to lock it back in, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Somebody Like You podcast. Live 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time is our live recording, and then on Wednesdays we will release it to the masses. But now we're getting back. We talked about achievable goal setting. Now we want them to be relevant. You don't want to be creating goals that aren't relevant to your major and overall goal. You want to create relevant goals. So if you're looking to practice more mindfulness, you're going to set the goal to dedicate time. You're going to do some breath work. You're going to learn to meditate. You're going to get into nature. You're going to go put your feet in the grass. Those are relevant goals to what you're doing. Just like if you're trying to be better in your relationship, you're going to first start with how you communicate, how you set boundaries, how you talk to yourself, how you talk to others, how you enforce boundaries is a big one. So all these goals have to be relevant and time bound. You don't want to just have nothing on the docket, right? You don't want to just have a goal set and then be like, I'll get to it when I get to it. That's not how it works. You want to be able to say by the end of this week, by the end of this month, and it can be little goals in the vision of the big goal. So it can be, like I say, my goal is 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. But my overall goal was for my year. I want that to be the average of my year. And then it keeps moving forward. I want it to be a lifestyle. I want it to be a habit. I want it to be my routine. So you have to find those things, right? So SMART, SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And remember, this has to be for you. This is where coaching comes in, or therapy, or counseling. You have to create a personal vision for you. So, what looks good for me, like these might be great starting points for you. They might inspire you to think of things, how they relate to your life or your relationships. But remember, this has to be your personal vision, because when we can take the ownership, that's where the accountability comes in. When we can take this ownership of our vision, our goals, our journey, that's when we're going to start checking off those boxes, because it's going to feel personal for us. Sometimes when we're at jobs, we don't feel like we want to get everything done on time or done because we just don't care. It's not our business, right? Well, create your self-help journey as if it's your business. It has to be on time or it's not getting done. The more you delay this, the more you delay that personal growth. So remember, this has to be your vision. And there's just because you ask for help doesn't take away from your vision. Investing in yourself is going to triple the timeline. If you're able to bring in a professional to help you find these things, it is going to at least triple. Otherwise, you can get stuck in the same circle, right? You get stuck in the same vicious cycle of I'll get it done when I get it done. I'll set goals, I won't achieve them. But when you have someone that can hold you accountable, can help you set them, help you define them, help you measure them, and make sure you're on time for them, that's huge. That's huge. And as we're working through our podcast here, I always like to, in the middle of our podcast, I like to take a moment for you to check in with yourself. I like to take a moment for me to check in with me. I like to take a moment for me to fix my hat, because when I stare at myself and I see my hair jumping out of the front, I get very distracted. So let's check in with ourselves. Let's take 3 deep breaths. That's one. 2. Relax the shoulders there. And let's make this third one the biggest breath we can have. Fill the diaphragm. There we go. If I breathe directly into the microphone, I apologize, but that was maybe for a dramatic effect. So, how are you feeling? I'm going to take some water. I'm going to spray the water on my face and my shirt, because that's how it goes. So, good, good. So, another big thing in our next talking point is going to be continuous learning and education. So there's an importance to lifelong learning for personal growth, right? That doesn't mean you have to go back to school. That doesn't mean you have to get a certification or all these things. But if you are really interested in personal growth, it's a forever thing. Now, there might be breaks, just like school has fall break, winter break, spring break, and summer. There may be breaks because we have to take the time to really digest the things we've learned. But this is going to be a continuous thing. You're going to continuously find things and better ways to help yourself, because what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. What you mastered yesterday is setting you up for tomorrow's lesson. So remember, this is always going to be a continuous thing. So it's a great place to start. If you're reading books and all of that is wonderful, it's just taking a look and filtering the things you're surrounding yourself with. So I'm big talking about the content you consume and the people you relate to, or the people you surround yourself with, I should say. Because the content you're consuming is a direct correlation of your personal growth. Not saying you can't have your guilty pleasures. Everyone does. Don't beat yourself up if you're like, well, I watch the Jersey Shore Family Vacation every Thursday at 8. That's okay. But remember, the majority of the things you are viewing and consuming is the reality that's playing out in your mind. So The podcast you're listening to, heyo, it's a mental health podcast. It's a self-discovery. It's a personal growth, self-help. So that's wonderful. If that's the path you're on, this is where you should be. If you're looking if your goal here is to learn how to take apart a car's engine and put it together, this might not be the podcast for you, right? But there's content out there, amazing content creators that do that. So remember, you're continuously learning, and while social media is a powerhouse for our attention, that's where we spend and pay a lot of our attention to. Use it for the better. Use it as a tool opposed to an escape. Use social media as a tool rather than an escape. That's big. Um, some books. I don't know if I mean, I read a lot of more like consciousness books. I'm a big Alan Watts fan. I read The Four Agreements. I'm currently reading Out of Your Mind by Alan Watts. In the world of Zen, or I don't have it on my it's all audiobooks. Um, Big Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza was a great one for me. Mind Hacking Happiness 1 and 2 by Sean Webb were wonderful for me. If you're watching me on my podcast, I'm closing my eyes because I'm trying to think. Maybe I'll make a reel this week, letting every or a video this week talking about some of the books that have really impacted my self-help and personal development journey. Um, and remember, continuous learning and education doesn't have to be formal. Um, I really identify with Zen Buddhism, spirituality. Um, that's something that talks and speaks with me. I can resonate with that. Some people find it in religion. That is wonderful. That is beautiful. How whatever speaks to you and finds your direction without feeling like it's corrupting your mind. Because there's toxicity in every facet of things. There's a cult feature to a lot of things. Like, oh, if you don't think this, then you're not a part of the group. Avoid that stuff. Avoid the things that feel in harmony with your journey. I like to use the words harmony and dissonance. If it feels like you're in harmony, like when you're listening to a song and there's maybe this is just me, and there's that moment, and I usually find it's the bridge or the chorus, and it just like feels like a puzzle piece slides into the right spot. That's what harmony feels like to me. And dissonance feels like when someone plays a major or plays a minor instead of a major. Um, Musically, of course. um, you know what I mean? So it's like playing the wrong note. You can feel you're like, "Oh, that didn't sound right. That didn't feel right." Um, that's big. So along your learning and your education, find a world and find the content and find the people and find the things that feel in harmony for you, because that's going to be where you're spending your time, getting your information from. That's going to be a huge player in your self-help journey. You have to learn how to step out of your comfort zones as well. Um, Stepping out of your comfort zone is going to be like those speed bumps that we come across, right? Discomfort is a speed bump. How are you going to use that speed bump? If you only did things when you felt comfortable doing them, we wouldn't do things very often, or we would do the same thing over and over again. And that's not growth. That's complacency. Complacency. Say it with me, complacency. So being discomfort and or doing things that bring you discomfort, and obviously keep this within context. Don't sit there and be like, well, going out and doing these crazy things. Don't. If it's along and in alignment with your journey. So sometimes if you go through a breakup and you feel like dating, it's been a time you got to grieve, you got to do whatever it might be that got you through a breakup, and then you're like, I'm ready to date, but you don't date because it makes you feel uncomfortable. That's what we're talking about. Start small. This is all coaching, right? This is all learning to coach yourself as well. Okay, if that makes me feel uncomfortable, do I want to gradually work myself into it? Exposure therapy. Or do I want to dive feet first in, just get this out of the way and conquer my fear? Also, exposure therapy. Um, you find what works for you. This discomfort is going to drive you to your next space, the next part of your growth. If you're starting to feel stuck, I just said this the other day to somebody. If you're starting to feel stuck, It's because you've outgrown the box in which you've placed yourself in, and it's time to start thinking bigger. Um, if you feel like, whether your job, your personal relationships, yourself, you feel like it's just very stagnant, think bigger for yourself and take the reins off. Stop putting yourself in this box of I'm only meant to be these things, do these things, and be in these places. You can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. It just comes back to the goal setting and the visions. You can do all of these things. No goal is out of reach, but it all starts with the first step. Even the person who wins the lottery had to get in their car and leave the house, had to think about leaving the house to go play this lottery. So remember, no goal is instant. No destination is instant. It takes work. So if you are feeling stagnant, think bigger for yourself. Ask yourself right now, what is it that I want to see myself become? What do I want to do? What does the best version of me do right now? Um, and then if you want to take it a step further, this is something I like to do. This is something I really like to do is what is my best self doing right now? What song is my best self listening to? How does my best self walk? What is my best self's morning routine? How does my best self talk to themselves? And then simply turn it around and ask yourself, am I doing those things? Because you're not separate from your best self. You are your best self. And you can see what your best self is doing. And if you're not doing those things, you're not listening to your best self. But if you are doing those things, like a self-help, a personal mental health podcast, is that something my best self would be doing? Abso-freaking-lutely. I set the intention this morning to help as many people as I possibly can, and that people who are ready to receive help will receive my help. That is the in service of my best self. So, am I in alignment with my best self? In this aspect, I am. Absolutely. Do I have cold pizza in the fridge that I'm going to eat after this podcast? Absolutely. Is that in service of my best self? Well, I'm going to say yes, but for my mind and my panic disorder, maybe not. I should say the sugar. Sugar's more for me. Anyway, I'm rambling on that about that. So yeah, remember, ask yourself the simple questions. Always ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What emotion am I experiencing? And is this in service of my best self? And I think you're going to find a lot of growth just by asking those three questions. Self care and well being, moving right along here. Check in with yourself. Are you learning something? What did you take away so far? Because we want actionable steps, right? It's great that you might just want to listen to my silky smooth voice on a Tuesday afternoon, but we want to move along. We want to grow. So we have to ask ourselves, like, what are we learning right now? So if there's something you took away from this first half of the podcast, remember, put it into action. Write it down. Put a note in your phone. Come back to it later, and we're going to keep this thing right a moving. Because self care and well being, without self care, you will not be able to sustain personal growth. You can't treat yourself as if it's just a hustle mindset all of the time. A motivated mindset is wonderful. Being dedicated to yourself is amazing, but you have to take that time for self care. And self care looks different for everybody. Self care for you might be drawing yourself a bath, reading a book, lighting some candles. That might be it. Turning on The Office on your phone and just relaxing. That's self care. That sounds good, doesn't it? Self care for me is getting out in the morning while it's still nice, going for a couple mile run slash walk, listening to my Alan Watts audiobooks. That's self care for me. Going to shoot hoops, play basketball, self help. Like these are all self care. So if you want to continue to grow personally, think to yourself right now, what is self care? And when's the last time I was able to actually do these things? Because I challenge you to start making time. And some of you guys have kids, some of you have obligations that might seem it's impossible to do. It's not. Self-care can be 2 minutes. Go for a bathroom break. Do some breath work in there. Maybe at a different time than when you're using the bathroom, but you know what I mean. Get your deep breathing in. Set intentions. Remember, self-care is about all these like luxurious things that we think about too, but it's the intention that you're setting that this is my self-care time. So if you have a crazy schedule and you have kids pulling on your shirts while you're trying to make dinner, once dinner's made and kids are in bed, this and that, go take your bathroom break. Take 2 minutes. Sit in there, and before you even start, let yourself know, let your mind, your subconscious mind know, this is my self-care time. My intention is to relax, reset, regather myself, and take care of me. Intention setting is massive. If you are struggling with that, I we did an entire podcast on setting intentions. I really encourage you to go back and look at it. There's so much good information in there because intention setting lets your mind and your subconscious mind know one, what you're doing, let your subconscious mind two, create the reality in which you're trying to live in. If you don't set the intention for self-care, how are you supposed to know you're self-caring? Well, it sounds really simple. It is a lot more simple than we make it seem, you know? What does self-care look like for everyone? Like I said, it can be exercise, healthy eating, sleep, relaxation techniques. Sleep is a big one. And I want to it sounds like I'm just sending a lot of challenges at you today. I want to challenge yourself to ask, how is your sleep? And if it's it's okay, could be better. Make little adjustments. Something I always like to tell my clients is find a bedtime like you're a kid, right? Be your own parent. Find a bedtime, set your bedtime, and go to bed at that time. If you're having trouble sleeping, no screens. Yeah, I mean, even if you're not, it should be no screens for about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour before you go to bed. I struggle with this myself. Because I like to not so much scroll my phone, but I like to fall asleep watching Parks and Rec. Something soothing about Ron Swanson's voice as I go to sleep. Um, but I make sure that I do my affirmation stuff. My part of my nighttime routine is like when I'm brushing my teeth, taking my vitamins, using my water pick and stuff like that. Um, that's that's what I do. Is I set my intentions for a good night's sleep, what I want to talk to my how I want to talk to myself, how I want to feel, what I want my remember our subconscious mind is what's running the body while we're sleeping. So, you have to let your body know and your subconscious mind know what you're trying to create. Find affirmations that work for you. If you go to my Instagram, somebody like you underscore mental health, all one word, somebody like you underscore mental health, I have some affirmations on there. Scroll down a little bit. I think it's like 7 or 8 affirmations that are wonderful to start out. And you can Google anywhere if you'd like. Um, find a bunch of things that feel good for you. But remember, I would say the key to self-care and personal well-being is the intentions you set for self-care and well-being. Exercise, it can be yoga, it can be running, it can be walking. If you're new to the self-care and or the exercise slash movement world, getting outside and walking for 10 minutes, 5, 10 minutes. Something a mindset that my mom shares with me, and I think it's amazing, is show up for yourself for 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes. All you have to do is show up for 5 minutes. And then from there, decide if you wanna go on or if you're good. You might not have the juice today. But what you're doing is you're training your mind to know that no matter what, I show up for myself. That's the relationship you're building with you, right? Back to our comment, Letsky. You gotta show up for you, right? We have to let our mind know before I will show up for anybody else, I'm going to show up for me continuously. Good days, good times, bad times, if you're a Led Zeppelin fan. No matter what, I'm going to show up for me. That's big. Whoo, is that big? Moving right along as we are continuing up here on our self-help and personal wellness journey. Um, if you are ever looking for one-on-one coaching, please feel free to reach out to me. I know a lot of things we talk about on the podcast and a lot of things we talk about in my content are great resources. I do my best to make free resources for everybody. But I do one-on-one coaching where we put together personal plans for you, accountability for you. Um, but I'd say most importantly, it's holding a safe space for someone to be vulnerable and be themselves, be yourself. Um, and just have honest, open conversations and put together an action plan of how we can move forward. Have enlightening conversations, have someone feel heard, understood. I think that's the kind of the benefit with I can say at least with my coaching. I don't know if everybody's coaching, but that is what I really like to bring out is helping people learn how to help themselves, become your best resource. I think it's big. So, like I said, if you are looking for some one-on-one coaching, you can either DM me on any of my socials or visit www.somebodylikeYou.org and send a note at on the contact form. Moving right along to accountability and support systems. How ironic, right? No. Um, so accountability and personal growth is huge, like we talked about kind of in the beginning of the podcast. Um, if you're not accountable and you're constantly pointing the fingers at somebody else or at some other thing that is the reason why you can't do this, um, you're starting off on the wrong foot. You have to be able to look at yourself, and even in traumatic experiences, right? It's really hard to say during all these trauma that I would never say to tell you it's your fault. Understand the role in which you have in it. Um, really bad things do happen. How you handle those things is now up to you. That's the role you're playing now. So you can either remain a victim or you can become the success story. And the success story looks different for everyone because sometimes just getting through the really traumatic things is your success story. Helping others can be a version of your success story. But it all starts with the accountability of what is the role I am playing in this moment. Because once you accept that role, now you can tap into your best self. What would my best self, how does my best self get through this? And I think I can speak from my own personal experience. I can't speak for others. There's a flash of this is what they do, this is how they feel, this is how I feel, this is how I think, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm speaking. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that, it just in a flash or in a snap of a finger, that's who it is. But that's your direction. That's your intuition. That's your gut talking and saying, that's the direction I'm moving if I choose to move there. Now you have a direction. Now you have the beginning of a blueprint. Now it just becomes with a decision to act. And that starts with accountability. That starts with saying, I'm responsible for this. I'm responsible for this outcome. Is there going to be tripping and falling along the way? Maybe. Is it going to be hard? Yeah, maybe. Am I going to give up on myself? Maybe it's going to feel like that at times. But you have to make the choice to understand that this is you. You're accountable. And only you are going to pull yourself out of it with the help of others. You're responsible for it, but there will be others that help you. What are some types of support systems? Well, we talked about my mental health coaching. I'm not going to self plug again, but therapy. Therapy is a huge resource. Therapy has saved me. Something that helped me a lot was somatic experiencing, SE work. Um, it's a lot like energy work, right? Feeling the energy in your body, feeling the connection between your mind and your body and that limbic system. For a lot of us, we have a lot going on in our mental space and our mind, right? It's just overactive anxiety. All it does is run, run, run. OCD, intrusive thoughts, all of these things, right? Very relatable. What that is doing is removing us from our body. Because right now, I want you to do an exercise with me. If you're listening to the recording, if you're watching live, I want you to focus on your right hand. And I want you to look at a part of your right hand. Let's look into the dead center of our hand. I want you to feel underneath that skin. I want you to feel what is underneath of that skin. and start telling yourself the sensations you're feeling in your hand. Your hand might be feeling tingly. Your hand might be feeling warm. Your hand might be feeling like it's vibrating. But with that simple exercise, what you just did was you removed yourself from the mind and you got yourself into the body. You just focused on the energy in your hand because our body is full of energy. We are an energetic being. Um, and you got you out of your mind to your hand. That's a form of meditation. What we just did was a very brief form of meditation. You've got out of your mind and into your body. The only thought you had was on the specific spot on your hand. That's meditation. But you understand that you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of your thoughts. Well, what you were doing was observing the sensation of your hands and you were just focused on it. So they talk about in meditation, you talk about breathing, talk about focusing on the breath in. A good practice is when you breathe in to feel the cool breeze on your in the bottom of your nostril, on the base of your nostril, where right above your upper lip. Focus on that when your mind waters come back. So what we're learning with the self-care, and we're talking about therapy, this was somatic experiencing for me, that which was huge help, was getting out of my mind and back into my body, because my body talks, our bodies talk. Once we learn how to listen to them, we understand that the mind isn't running everything. The mind is just kind of a show. Our mind is just a Broadway play that we end up watching, and the show is so good that we feel all the emotions for it. Once we start asking ourselves about those emotions, what does this emotion feel like? What emotion am I experiencing? You're getting out of your mind into your body and separating yourself from the show a little bit and understanding that you're the awareness of it all. You're not the things that the mind is speaking, you're the awareness of the mind itself. Whew. See, you let me talk long enough. I'm going to start getting into my consciousness talk, and we're going to get into it. Um, But like we said, coaching, counseling, therapy is huge. Hypnotherapy is wonderful. If you're working through grief, a grief coach is amazing. Um, but yeah, find your support systems. Most importantly, find somebody that will help hold you accountable to the things you are trying to achieve for yourself, because we all need help. I need help. I have an amazing support group that helps me a lot. I have a wonderful community of people, including all of yourselves, that show up, watch my podcast, listen to my podcast. That holds me accountable. Knowing that I'm helping people, that helps me serve my purpose. So if I am helping you, thank you. You're helping me serve my purpose. Send it to a friend that might need to hear it, because now you're becoming the best version of me. You're helping other people help themselves, because I'm I'm the head of my snake, right? I'm the person that likes to make my content that helps people, this and that. But the role you play along your healing journey is also helping others. The most important, the greatest thing that has helped me along my journey is the help of others. So by helping others who are going through similar things that you're going through, you're now creating a healing circle for yourself, right? You're not going in this alone. You're helping others who are going through the things that you're going through. It's a powerful practice. As we slide into overcoming obstacles of personal growth, I want to talk about some common obstacles. Before we started this, I was live on TikTok, and someone said imposter syndrome, self doubt, right? How do I overcome self doubt? It's easy. You do the things that you're doubtful of. You let that self doubt know that it's allowed to be there. It's kind of healthy. It's letting you know that, hey, continue with caution. It's your ego talking to you. It's your ego saying, we've done a lot of things really well, but this isn't the thing that we do really well. Your ego's a scaredy cat, or a prideful son of a gun. You do the thing, and you show it that you respect the fact that, it has an opinion, but it doesn't run the show. You're going to take it into a consideration, but you're the leader of the ship. Okay, I want to write this song, but I don't feel like I'm good enough. I will let you know that some of the most prolific and amazing and well-known songwriters of every generation didn't think they were good enough. They just did it because they had to. So, right, if you have imposter syndrome and your ego is telling you that you're not good enough, do it. If you're anxious, right? If you have, like me, I have panic disorder. I've had to overcome it through exposure therapy. So imposter syndrome is so exposure therapy for imposter syndrome is doing the thing that you don't feel good enough to do. Fear of failure. I fail every day, and but I don't find anything as a failure because everything is a lesson. I'm here to learn. The only way you fail is if you don't learn anything from it. That's a big lesson because everything's going to have setbacks on your self help journey, personal growth, career growth, romantic situation. Everything's going to have setbacks, but how are you going to handle it? What lesson do you learn from these things? When you're able to learn lessons from all of the things that feel like setbacks, those setbacks are going to be the building blocks to your greatest success story. And you're going to have the perspective to look back and be like, they were never setbacks at all. They were tools. If I never learned how to overcome these setbacks, I would never be where I am today. So what are you going through right at this exact moment in time that feels like a setback? This is the time where you think about that. And we're gonna do some coaching right now. 30-second coaching. Ready? What is the setback you feel like you are having right now? Don't judge it. Don't get your emotions into it. Just name it. Now we're going to ask ourselves, what lesson is this? What lesson am I learning from this setback? When I overcome this setback, what lesson will I have learned? And you're going to have to think on that for a minute because once you understand the lesson that you've learned, that is the lesson. You just need to work through that. So now you understand the setback. Now you have the lesson learned. You understand, like, oh, well, that will be the lesson that I learn. Now you just have to bridge that gap and get from point A to point B. And you've overcome that obstacle for your personal growth. And I know some people might be listening and be like, well, you're just really oversimplifying it. I think the problem is that we often overcomplicate a lot of things because our emotions get involved. Do you know what the difference between happiness and anxiety is? The mind's interpretation of it. It's all just an energetic vibration. It's just an emotion. We just name it. So when you're feeling anxious or you're feeling happy or whatever, just we can flip it. So now we're overcomplicating these things. So remember, all you have to do to overcome your obstacle is identify it, name it, remove your emotion from it. Then ask yourself, what is the lesson I will learn when I overcome this? And now you have point A and point B, and you just have to draw the line in between, cross the bridge. Set up our goal setting, right? We talked about in the beginning of the podcast. Now you have goal setting. Now you have such a clear vision of what you are trying to accomplish. Now you just have to make the baby steps. You have to find the little goals. Okay, well, in order to overcome that, to get to there, I need to do this, 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 in this amount of time. I need to hold myself accountable doing this, this, and this. And you're going to overcome it. And the more you do this, the more you practice this, the better and quicker you're going to get at learning these lessons and overcoming your obstacles. Right? I'm juiced up on that. I'm really juiced up on that. That is the greatest strategy I can possibly share, because it's going to develop resilience. You're going to learn how to reframe your challenges. Most importantly, you're going to learn how to seek out support. Whether you work with me one on one, or whether you're listening to my podcast, or whether you're seeing my content, that's still seeking support, right? You're investing in yourself. The amount of content you watch that invests in you is going to be a direct correlation of how much you help yourself. So, in conclusion, everybody, remember there are keys to the personal growth, but most importantly, you got a goal set, have a vision, clear cut, and this has to be personal to you. If you don't know what that vision is, work with somebody, find somebody that inspires you, that will help you hone in on that vision. Set the intention of self care and well being. When you're taking moments for self care, whether it be meditating, drawing a bath, exercising, set the intention and tell your mind now to know this is what I'm doing to take care of myself. You have to have accountability in your support systems. Somebody is always there to help you. You need to take accountability for your role in this story, and you have to learn how to overcome obstacles to your personal growth. I thank you so much for tuning in, not just for me because I love helping people, but for yourself, taking this hour of time to dedicate to yourself and finding things and words and people that help you along your journey. And as always, if there's anything I can do, you can visit www.somebodylikeyou.org. You can shoot me a note at the bottom. I would love to work with you. I would love to be able to help you find and tap into the best version of yourself because remember that's my role is to help you help you. If you're not following me on TikTok, it's somebody like dot you, and on Instagram it's somebody like you underscore mental health. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go search for somebody like you and help me out. As much as I love to help other people out too, it is a part of my journey to also accept help from others. So if you are willing to help, I very much appreciate it. But most importantly, I am just so thankful that you are all here helping yourself because by you helping yourself, that helps me. So I'm going to end this podcast with saying, I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm going to catch you on the next podcast. Take care. Bye.